DBSCG things.
What's up, Yuhp gang? It's your boy Taxon and welcome back to Yuhp DBSCG Things. And today we're bringing you another very exciting video. Today we're going to be discussing with you all the staples within the game that you should get if you're new to this game or moving to a new color. But before we get into it, guys, I do want to say if you want any custom card sleeves and or mats, absolutely check out ProMats, guys. Best place to go get your custom card needs. Link will be in the description below for you guys to go check them out. And also, as you can see on the screen now, they're holding a monthly tournament via Discord at the second weekend of every single month with some great prizing here. You can win some ProMat mats, some TCG medals leaders, and also some booster boxes. So use the link in the description below to go to this Discord if it's something you're interested in. With that being said, guys, if you guys enjoyed this content, make sure you guys leave me a like, comment, and subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you're notified every single time I upload a video. And with that being said, guys, let's shrink me down and talk about staple cards. Alrighty, guys, so diving right in, we're going to start off with cards that I consider staple that you can use in every single color. So, diving right in, guys, I want to start off with Champa, Furthering Destruction, and Supreme Kai. Both of these cards can be used in every single color as a late game finisher. Basically, once you get into a battle step and your opponent is at 2 life, you can slap this card into your combo area and give your attacking card 10,000 power in double strike. This card can be used in every single color for that exact reason, going in for game and closing it out. With that being said, I consider this card staple. Moving directly to the next card for every color, we have the Blocker Token Negates. This is a card that came out in Evolution Booster that has a version of itself for every color, so I decided to put it here. It's a Homicidal Clones, Testing the Opposition, Freezer Reinforcements, and so on and so forth. These cards are all very good in their said color. Obviously, certain ones are better than other colors depending on what they need. Like the yellow one is a lot more important to the yellow strategy now than any other one. Green is also very important because green just doesn't have as good of negates in comparison to either blue or something. So these I consider staple for every color. And next up on this list, guys, I have the Set 8 Ripple Life Counterplays. What these cards do and what they're most important for is stopping floodgates in today's meta. These cost 1 energy, or you can Ripple Life if you have 4 or less if you have a multicolor energy, or if you're just playing the black one. The yellow card, not too valuable in comparison to others, but these cards will stop flood negates on the time they're trying to stop your go-in turn. So for 1 energy, you can cast this and stop your opponent from stopping your turn. And with that being said, I consider these cards staple. Alrighty, you guys, so moving into the next cards, I'm going to be bringing up 2 Overwhelmers that you can use in just about any color deck. These cards will help you either close out games or help you clear out a little bit of board. So, with that being said, we have Secret ID Max Sand and Fighting Against Fate SS4 Bardock. Both of these cards, very good, and for the reason of being an Overwhelmer of choice and the best Overwhelms for every color, I consider these cards staple. Next card I'm going to be talking about, guys, there's actually 2 variations of. We have the Draw Monkeys. If you guys don't know what I mean by that, I'm talking about Saiyan Instinct Son Goku and also Bardock the Eliminator. These cards are fantastic in just about every color. As long as you can find a way to get these cards into the drop, all you have to do is pay the specified energy and you can draw off these cards' effects. Either pay 1 for a draw 1 or pay 2 for a draw 2. For that reason, guys, I consider these cards staple. And last but not least, guys, for the last card that I consider staple for absolutely every color that you're going to want to be diving into is Koizakai, guys. This card is absolutely amazing and great for every single color. Like I said again, for the Draw Monkeys, as long as you can get this card into the drop area and pay for its effect, this card will do wonders for you. This card being a pay 1, bottom deck 2 cards from your hand and draw 2, and your opponent can no longer play 20,000 power cards or less on your turn, or else they must warp 2 cards from hand. For that reason, guys, I consider this card staple for absolutely every color. And with that being said, that just about wraps up the staples for every single color. Now moving into the colors, guys, I'm going to be starting off with blue. So diving right in, guys, I want to start off by talking about the extra cards for blue that are always staple and you will see or need in your blue decks. We have Dimension Magic, guys. This card is a negate that you can pay 1 for, and then it will counter the attack and allow you to stand 2 of your blue energies up. Also, it has an additional effect. If you have Sparking 5, you can cast this card by ripping a life instead of paying its energy cost, effectively standing up 2 of your energies for the cost of 1 life. This card, absolutely amazing and staple for blue. Next up, we have Senzu Bean, guys. This card is absolutely amazing and has been staple since set 1. This card is an Activate Battle extra card. For 1 energy, you can give your leader card or actually just any one of your cards 5k and stand 2 of your energy. Helping you extend your defensive plays or help you just push out more pressure on your offensive turns. With that being said, guys, I consider this card a staple for blue. Moving now into unisons, guys. Blue really only has one unison that I consider a true staple for its color. And with that being said, guys, that is going to be Boo Unison. This is a 4-cost unison, guys, that comes down with 4 markers on it. It's a blocker, double strike. It has a +/-0 effect that allows you to draw a card, restand it and one of your mono blue energies at the beginning of your opponent's main phase, allowing you to get that double strike swing in and also block with it. Also, tagged along with these amazing effects, it also has a -1. Whenever your opponent attacks with a battle card, you can -1 marker off this unison and choose one of your opponent's battle cards and bottom deck it. Of course, not getting around barrier, this card is still absolutely stunningly powerful and what I consider a staple for blue. Alrighty, guys, so now I'm going to be diving directly into the battle cards for blue that I will be considering staple. Starting it off with God's Sealing Technique Trunks. This card is absolutely amazing and will stop any card that does not have deflect from coming into play. As long as you have a unison in play, this card will be absolutely free and all you have to do is discard it from your hand to stop any threat from coming into play. For that reason, I consider this card staple. Moving on to the next card, guys, we have SS2 Heroic Prospect Trunks. This is a negate with a battle card attached to it. A 15k 3-drop card comes into play, and it also has a lingering effect that makes your opponent bottom deck 2 cards from hand if they want to attack with a battle card that's greater than their energy cost. This card, for that reason, I consider it staple for the fact that it will flood out your opponent's turn and stop them from going tall. This card, absolutely amazing and a staple for blue. And next up, we do have a 1-drop that's going to help keep you protected throughout the duration of your entire game as long as it's on field. Isekai, Keeping Watch. It is a 1-drop cantrip that comes into play, draws you a card, and what it's going to do is have a lingering effect that lasts for the duration of the entire game as long as it's on field. If your opponent decides to play a battle card into their battle area on your turn, they're going to have to choose 1 card from their hand and bottom deck it. This effect not being a once per turn makes it very strong against rival-based decks or cards that are going to be negates with battle cards attached to them. So, with that being said, guys, I consider this card absolutely staple for blue. Moving on, guys, we are going to be moving on to a couple of the boss monsters for blue that I do consider staple. Starting off with Android 17, this card will rip both players' entire hands down to 0 and be a huge 30k critical attack. With that being said, with the combination of this card and the Boo Unison Blue, it has a very powerful turn 7. If as long as you're at 3 life, this card will be the de facto finisher of your turn. With that being said, guys, that's why I consider this stable for blue. And of course, up next for the final boss monsters of blue, we have Baby the Golden Avenger. This is a 5-cost counter card, but also can be a counter play. Essentially, once your opponent wants to negate an attack that's going to be finishing off the game, you're going to be paying 5 for this card and playing it through counter, essentially stopping the counter that your opponent is trying to use to stop your attack and playing a 30k triple strike. This card will also draw you a card and then bottom deck one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier. With a very powerful effect, it is a 30,000 triple striking finisher. With that being said, guys, that is exactly why I consider this card a staple for blue. And now diving into super combos for blue, guys, we do have 3 options here for us. We have Vegeta Super Combo. This card allows you to bottom deck 1 card from hand and then draw 2 when you use it in combo, and it will be a 10k combo power card. Absolutely very strong and probably the most prominent in the blue source. With that being said, we also have the other 2 options with Zamasu and Zeno. Zamasu, this is just going to be a multicolor, which allows you to rest one of your opponent's leaders or battle cards in the combo phase, which is actually very powerful when you're using it defensively. Next up, we have Zeno. Of course, this card, when you're using it at 5 or less life on your opponent's turn, it allows you to pick up one of your energies, add it to your hand, and then place a card from your hand into your energy, and it's going to be in active mode, allowing you to essentially be tapped out and then go to having 1 energy. And once you have 1 energy in blue, that's all you need to stand up all your other energy. With that being said, these are the 3 staple super combos for blue. And now that we are done with blue, guys, let's go ahead and dive into yellow, starting off with its extra cards that I consider staple. Alrighty, you guys, so first things first, I want to talk about the most prominent card that has put a name on itself, enough for it to get hit on the ban list. Power of the Super Saiyan. This card, even though it has been limited down to 1, is still very staple and necessary in yellow. This card being free, able to rest and activate all the effects in your hand that are like Poutine and Bergamo. This card is absolutely amazing, and also tagged along with just being able to rest something for free, you also get to recycle the card used and draw a card. Very powerful effect, and that is exactly why I consider consider that card staple for yellow. Moving on, guys, we have Vegeta's Final Flash. This card has also made a name for itself right now in the meta because we need so many extra cards to play yellow. Yellow is so reliant on its extra cards to turn on things like Mecha Frieza and Steadfast Goku that makes Vegeta's Final Flash absolutely staple for the color. This card is amazing. It is a 1-drop, 15k combo power, and then also additionally, if all your energy is yellow, this card will target any card ignoring barrier and skill negated. So the battle card that you decide to choose will get targeted and definitely have all of its skills negated. This card is amazing for the reason that you can let your opponent shotgun on a double strike and then skill negate it and take 1 life for 1 energy. This card, being that so strong, makes it staple. And next up, guys, we have another very powerful card, and a newer one at that. This is going to be from set 16, Realm of the Gods, Goku Black Kamehameha. This card is absolutely strong in what it does, and it is a great replacement for Power of the Super Saiyan. Being that for 1 energy, it's going to tap down 2 of your opponent's cards and give 10,000. This card is absolutely amazing and it does 2 different things. This is why I consider this card staple for yellow. Alrighty, you guys, so now that we're done with the extra cards, let's go ahead and dive into the unisons. Of course, for yellow, we don't need to really have a unison reliant strategy, so I really only have 2 unisons in this color that I consider staple. Starting it off, guys, we have the Vegeta unisons that came out in the unison expansion when the Unison Warrior stuff first started. This card is called Vegeta Unison of Fury. This card is absolutely amazing in locking your opponent out of playing any big battle cards and able to attack with them. And also, it is providing another -3 effect that allows you to use it as a game finisher. With that being said, guys, there's many reasons why I consider this card staple for yellow. And the next card on that list, guys, I want to bring up the 3-cost Trunks. Now, when this card was released, it was a little slept on, but with the meta going so much slower now, this card is absolutely needed in almost every yellow deck. This card having an effect to able to rest something to trigger your resting effects like Bergamo, Poutine, and things like that. And then also if the card you rested is a 4-cost or less, you get to KO it. So it does provide board removal with just its plus-minus effect. It also is a 20k dual attacking card, which provides a lot of pressure. And being that it is a unison, your opponent can't really respond to it or do much to it besides negate the attacks or combo out of them. And also with the -3, it provides a very great board wipe and a draw one so that you actually get some power out of the paying 3 for that card and you get the replacement back after wiping their board. Of course, the cards have to be in rest mode, but I still consider this card staple for yellow. Alrighty, you guys, and now that we are done with the unisons, let's go ahead and dive directly into the battle cards that I consider staple for yellow. I want to start it off by talking about the 1-drop Basil. This card has made such an impact in yellow that you should always consider seeing 2 to 3 copies of this card in every single yellow deck. This card is a 1-drop cantrip that comes out, and it also has a provided effect that allows you to activate it if your opponent has 5 or more cards in rest mode, and it becomes a 19k dual attacking card. This card being so powerful and so much value for 1 energy, I consider this card absolutely staple for yellow. And now that we brought him up, guys, I do want to bring up Bergamo to keep a U9 theme. This card has made such an impact on yellow that it actually had to get limited down to 1 copy per deck. So, of course, like I brought up in a couple of the different cards that I've already brought up for yellow, once one of your opponent's cards is switched to rest mode by one of your skills, you can pay 2 to activate a skill to play this card from your hand. This card will come out and tap 2 of your opponent's cards to rest mode. Additionally, this card can hit energy, so it's very, very good, and that's actually probably why it got hit. So you can tap your opponent out and provide yourself your clutch game-ending turn. So with that being said, this is exactly why I consider Bergamo, even though it is a 1-of, still a staple for yellow. Next up on this list, guys, we have the Lord Slug Engine. Of course, this card has made such an impact that it has been absolutely staple in yellow for probably the last 2 or 3 sets. This card is absolutely amazing. The 1 and 3 drop kind of a pair deal. You're going to need both of them for it to work. But basically, the 1-drop plays the 3-drop, and once the 3-drop is established and you have Bond 2, if this card is in rest mode, your opponent just can't draw off any effects besides their leader effect. And being that yellow plays the resource game and just wants to out-resource their opponent, stopping your opponent from drawing cards is exactly what you want to do. That's exactly why I consider this card a staple for any yellow deck. Next up, guys, I'm bringing up 2 cards at once because both of these cards are absolutely amazing and they work kind of the same. Have different effects, but they're both reduced exactly the same. When you have a bunch of extra cards either in your drop area and or energy, these cards can be reduced down to 1, and they both have very solid effects. Of course, Steadfast Goku, this card is a counterplay that makes the card being played comes into play in rest mode, and then it draws you a card and plays the card, which is a 5k blocker. This card is absolutely amazing and it does exactly what yellow needs it to do. Playing a card into rest mode, and now that it is in rest mode, it's going to trigger most of yellow's effects to KO those cards. So that is very, very good. Steadfast doing what it needs to do. That's why I consider it staple. Moving on to Mecha Frieza. Of course, this is going to be the flood negate for yellow. Like I said, it's reduced down to 1 with extra cards in your energy or drop area. This card comes into play, and if it does, it negates the attack, and then if your opponent wants to attack for the duration of the turn, they're going to have to rest any card. This could be a field, an energy, or another battle card in order to swing with a card. So of course, if they rest something, this will also trigger effects like Bergamo and Poutine. So these cards I consider absolutely stable for yellow. And another card that I absolutely want to bring up, and I've already brought up a couple times in talking about a few other cards, is Poutine. This card is absolutely amazing and staple in yellow. You will absolutely see 1 to 2 copies of it in every single deck that is a yellow based deck. So basically, once one of your opponent's cards is rested by your skill, this card will come out for free, and then essentially whenever your opponent plays a card off a skill or counters, you can choose one of their cards and switch it to rest mode. With that being such a yellow based effect, just because you can keep resting things, I consider this card absolutely stable for yellow until it actually gets banned. So with that being said, guys, make sure you go get Poutine. And for the last battle card of yellow, I do want to speak of Cooler Counter. Of course, this card is staple in yellow because it's going to be the thing that is going to stop your opponent from stopping your final turn. It's going to allow you to get your final push in and catch a game. And it's also very clutch because it does stop Blue's secret rare, so you can counter your opponent's baby hatch. With that being said, guys, this card is only 3 energy. It recycles itself, and additionally, if there's 5 or more cards tapped, you can draw an additional card, so it does technically draw 2 if it does meet the right requirements. And with that being said, guys, that's exactly why I consider this card staple for yellow. And with that being said, and we're wrapping up the battle cards, we're going to dive into the super combos that I consider staple for yellow. And in this section, we only have 2 options here. Really, we have the Krillin super combo. This card is absolutely amazing and honestly the best if you're going to be going the mono yellow route. This card will bottom deck 1 card from your hand and then draw 2 when used in a combo, being a 10k combo power. This is probably the best and most staple super combo for yellow. Moving on, we have Zamasu. This is the multicolor card, and it is best used defensively, being able to tap down a future attacker or your opponent's leader and preventing a draw. This card is very strong and also staple for yellow. With that wrapping up yellow, guys, we're going to go ahead and dive directly into black, starting off with its extra cards. First up on that list, guys, we do have Power Burst. Of course, this card is a great negate. It is a 1-cost negate, counter the attack, and then you get to go into your drop area or warp, grabbing a 1-drop, which could grab things like True Fighting Spirit, or the 1-drop Kai, which is like a combo card when you have 5 or less cards in hand. Very good options in black for you to grab 1-drop like cantrips and just recycle cards. Very good card. Also, it does have a additional effect with the Sparking 5 effect, which is fairly easy to get in black. You can rip a life and cast the card for free. Very good card, and I will always consider this card a staple for black. And next on that list, guys, I am going to squeeze Petrification in here just because I can't find many extra cards that I consider staple for every single black deck. But I will consider Petrification one of them just because this card is fantastic at what it does. It negates the attack, and then additionally you can pitch a card from hand. And then you get to choose one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, getting around barrier, fantastic. And that card can't attack, it can't activate its skills, and it also can't be removed from the battle area or placed in the combo area. So this effectively turns off any skills that are like activate mains that you're worried about, or if you're just going to negate the attack from a card that has an auto that you don't want to deal about, you can go ahead and just activate this and not deal with the auto at all. So it is very good at what it does. I think it is absolutely staple for black. And now that we spoke about the extra cards that I consider staple for black, we're going to go ahead and dive directly into the unisons, guys. Of course, there's only going to be one that I consider staple that you can really put into just about every black deck, and honestly, it's going to be the SS4 Bardock. This card is absolutely amazing at what it does, and I consider it staple for every black just because it is a 2-cost that draws you a card every single turn, and it provides you a 15k beater, and it doesn't have any specifications on what your leader needs to be. Also, the -2 being a great way to flood your opponent out from attacking with battle cards. This card is a great staple for black. And now that we are done with the unisons for black, guys, we're going to dive directly into the battle cards, starting it off with the Supreme Kai Negate. Of course, I consider this card staple for black because you will see it in just about every single black deck that is doing Overwhelm, which basically all of them are. So, once they get 3 cards on their warp, this card just becomes a 1-drop, and what it does is a 1-cost negate that allows you to warp a card when this card is played, and that card will come back at the end of the turn. So this prevents essentially 2 attacks. You can negate one attack, essentially, let's say they swing with leader, you negate the attack, you play that card, and as long as they don't counterplay it from coming into play, that card's auto is going to go off and bounce a card from your opponent's board into the warp until the end of their turn. So that is exactly why I consider that card a staple for black. And next up on that list, guys, I have to bring up Fighting Fates Goku. This card is absolutely amazing at what it does. It is a 1-drop unique deflect card that comes out. It has a self-awakening skill when you want to swing with it, but most of the time you're just going to use it for its auto as bait. You're going to use it in play for 1 energy, and then if your opponent uses a counter skill, they will have to warp 1 card from hand. Of course, this card makes your opponent very weary on using their counter attacks and counter plays, so it does allow you to end up pushing a lot of pressure because they're not going to want to warp a card from hand. So with that being said, guys, this is exactly why I consider that card a staple for black. Next up on that list, guys, of course I gotta bring up SS3, Thwarting the Dark Empire Gogeta Xeno. This card is absolutely snap. What it does is it comes out for 1 energy via either Union Fusion or Overwhelm. This card will come out, and when it swings, it will warp a card on play and then also provide a 25k double strike pressure. Of course, I consider this card a staple because it has been very prominently played and seen in every single black deck since its release. So this card is absolutely staple. Next up on that list, guys, I'm going to bring up SS4 Son Goku Beyond All Limits. This is an Overwhelmer for free, and what it does is it grabs a 3-cost through 7-cost from your warp after overwhelming and it comes into play. I consider this card a staple for black because it allows you to recycle so many different cards from your black decks. Of course, this can pick up your things like your Kai Negates, this can pick up your other fusion targets and things like that. This card is absolutely amazing. So with that being said, this card is absolutely staple for black. And the last battle card that I'm going to be bringing up as a staple for black is going to be Max Saiyan Brainwash No More. Of course, this card I consider a staple for black because it is a free Overwhelm 6, comes into play, and what it does is it warps or moves 3 cards from your warp back to your drop area. Also, for its more prominent and more used effect, it does have the activate battle for 1 energy. You can pitch this card from your hand, crit 1 of your life, and then you won't take any damage for the duration of the turn. So if your opponent decides to shotgun on you and you have more than 1 life, you can go ahead and crit 1 of your lives and take no damage on that shotgun. So of course this card is going to be a staple for black for a long time to come. And now that we have wrapped up the battle cards, guys, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the super combos that are staple for black. And honestly, there's only one true staple super combo. That is going to be the SS Vegeta. This is the bottom deck 1 and draw 2. And of course, every single color has one of these super combos and it's going to be mentioned for them. But honestly, if you have a deck that has a searchable super combo, those are also very staple for your deck. And now that we have wrapped up black, guys, we're going to go ahead and dive directly into red, starting off with its extra cards. And the first card I'm going to speak about on this list, guys, is going to be After Image. This is going to be the Sparking 5 Negate for red. Of course, this is going to be the 1-drop counter attack, but it doesn't actually negate the attack. What this does is it minuses 10 one of your opponent's battle cards, and then it also gives you plus 40 for the duration of the battle. Most of the time, your opponent won't combo up into this because it's honestly just not a smart move. So with that being said, guys, this card is absolutely staple for red. And next up on this list, guys, I'm going to be bringing up Frieza's Death Ball. Of course, this card is absolutely amazing for red. This is a 1 energy, basically 25k combo power, either defensively or offensively. This can minus 10 your opponent's leader card or battle card, which is absolutely great when it comes to pushing for game. I absolutely will always consider this a staple for red. Bringing up now Violent Rays, guys. The next card on the list is absolutely amazing. What it does is it stops your opponent from swinging with 20,000 power or more battle cards or unisons. And of course, this card right now in the meta is absolutely amazing because we have so many dual attacking 20k unisons. So Violent Rays I consider a fantastic staple for red. And of course, the last card that I'm going to be bringing up as a staple for red in the extra card section is Wolf Fang Fist. This card is absolutely amazing. When you have a unison in play, you can cast it for free, so it is a free counter attack, but it doesn't negate the attack. What it does is it chooses one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and minuses it by 15k. This, of course, can be used as spot removal if your opponent's swinging with a 15k or less battle card. So with that being said, guys, I will always consider Wolf Fang Fist a fantastic staple for red. Alrighty, you guys, and now that we are done with the extra card section, we're going to dive directly into the unisons for red, guys. And of course, there's only one really solid staple red unison that I'm going to put in this list, and it's going to be Piccolo Jr. Of course, this is a 2-cost 15k unison that it comes out, draws you a card every single turn, and also it does have a rejuvenate effect and also a little mini board wipe. But the best part about this unison is the auto. Whenever your opponent decides to activate a counter, either counterplay or counter attack, you can choose one of their cards with 15,000 power or less and just straight up KO it. So this card, not being once per turn, is really snapped. So I will always consider this card a staple unison for red. And now that we are done with the unisons, guys, we're going to go into the battle cards for red. And of course, starting it off, we have Topo. This card has made such a prominent impact on red, being such a defensive tool for it, being able to be a 2-cost counter attack, negating the attack and then coming into play with the additional cost of 1 card in your hand. And then if it hits play, your opponent cannot attack for the duration of the turn unless they decide to choose and discard 2 cards from their hand every time. So this card has made such an impact for red, so I will always consider this card a staple in red. Next battle card for the list, guys, is going to be Broly Crown. I will always consider this staple for red because it is so good against so many colors right now. If your opponent decides to leave energy up to be defensive when you're going in, you can always, for 1 energy, cast this card, look at their hand, and take out some defensive tools. Whether they have a Flood Negate that you can rip or not, you can always take something like a Super Combo. This card is absolutely fantastic. Always going to be a staple in red. And another card for this list, it's actually going to be a card that actually had to get limited down to 1 copy per deck, is going to be King Piccolo New Ruler. This card was actually really snapped when you could play it at 4, but right now, since Bandai wanted to get rid of a lot of the free play in the game, they decided to make it only 1 copy per deck. But this card is always going to be a staple in red because it is basically a free overwhelmer and is going to help provide you on your game pushing turn. So this card absolutely being great, being a free play 20k double striker that cannot be blocked and it just goes away at the end of the turn. Absolutely phenomenal. Great staple in red. Next up on that list, guys, I'm going to be bringing up Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku. This card is absolutely amazing, a great way and a fantastic tool to board remove your opponent. If you're not going to pay 3 and play it to wipe 20Ks or less, you're going to be paying 2 to discard it from your hand, target one of your opponent's cards, ignoring barrier, and get rid of it. So this card being absolutely amazing when it comes to getting rid of troublesome cards on your opponent's side of the field. This will always be a fantastic staple for red. And the last card, guys, I'm going to be bringing up on the battle card list for red is going to be Yamcha Merciless Barrage. This card is absolutely amazing. This is the free counterplay for red if you have a unison in play with 2 or more counters on it. This card is absolutely great. Comes in, minuses 2 cards, ignoring barrier, and then provides you a free 15k attacker. This card is absolutely great and a staple for red. And to wrap up the red staples, guys, we're going to dive into the super combos, and obviously the most prominent one being red is the bottom deck 1 and draw 2. Absolutely staple for red, but like I said earlier, if you have a searchable super combo for your deck, absolutely try it out. It will be a great option. And now that we have wrapped up red, guys, we're going to go ahead and dive directly in green, starting off with its extra cards. Starting it off, guys, with Dormant Potential Unleashed. This is a great card for green and always going to be staple, being that it is a 1 energy extra card negate that doesn't actually negate the attack, but it does KO a 2 cost or less, and then has additional effect that you can discard a card from your hand and then your opponent can only attack once more for the duration of the turn. And of course, this card does have an additional effect that if you have a unison in play, you can cast it for free. So this card will always be a staple in my opinion. And next up on that list, guys, we have Cell's Kamehameha. This card is absolutely phenomenal, being a 1 energy 15k combo power, and then you get to choose a card in your opponent's hand and place it in the drop area. This card being very effective for the green strategy and also helps you get out of very sticky situations when they decide to attack you with a big number. This card, in my opinion, will always be staple in green. And the last card rounding off the extra cards for green, guys, we're going to be talking about Shocking Death Ball here. Of course, this is going to be a 1 energy counter attack that stops an attack and then chooses a 2 cost or less card on your opponent's side of the field and KOs it. Additionally, it does have the Sparking 5 effect on it, which allows you to rip a life and cast it for free if you have 5 in the drop area, which is also very good. This is a great card for green, and I'll always consider it a staple. And now that we have wrapped up the extra cards for green, guys, we're going to dive directly into the unisons. And of course, to start it off, we have Domegra. A great unisons for green. This is going to be a 1-drop unison that can come out on turn 1, goes up to 2 with its +1 effect, and then it will essentially have your Dormant Potential Unleashed and your Frieza Charismatics live on your very first turn. So this card, also with the effect being able to choose when it takes a marker off it, is very strong and also helps lean towards your self-awakening strategy. I will always consider this card a very fantastic staple unison for green. And the last unison to round off the staple unisons for green, I'm going to sneak in Bardock Paternal Unison in here just because I consider this card staple now because there are so many rival strategies and this card will help you make your opponent work around it. This card has a very very powerful effect which allows you to pop a card in the combo area when your opponent combos, and then also it does have an additional effect where you can -3 markers off it and make it a game ender. With that being said, guys, I will always consider this card a staple in green. And now that we are done with the unisons, guys, we're going to, of course, dive directly into the battle cards, starting it off with Majin Buu, Unadulterated Malice. This is basically Topo for green, and of course this is going to be staple for green from here on out because it is a 2-cost counter. If it hits field, you gotta discard a card from your hand, and then your opponent cannot attack for the turn unless they choose to discard 2 cards from their hand every single time they decide to attack. So, this card, with my opinion, is obviously a staple for green. And next up on that list, guys, of course we do have Ribram, Punishing Passion. This card is absolutely amazing when it comes to the hand destruction style of green. What you do is you get this card into your drop area, you tap 2, and then you force your opponent to discard 2 cards from their hand. Very powerful effect, and with that being said, I will always consider this card a staple in green. Next up on that list, guys, we have Rosie, Blast Manipulator. Of course, this card is going to be a staple in green because what it does is a 3-drop deflect card which comes out into play, and when it does, it has an auto, make your opponent choose 2 cards from their hand and discard them, and then this card will gain triple attack. Of course, this card being such a powerful way to help provide game-ending pressure for your green decks, I will always consider this card a great staple in green. And of course, guys, on this list I gotta bring up Frieza Charismatic Villain. Of course, this is going to be your free counterplay for green if you have a unison in play with 2 markers on it. This card can get played from your hand during a counterplay window, and then it has an auto. When it gets played, you get to choose one of your opponent's battle cards with 7 cost or less and KO it. This is a fantastic card for green, and being that it is free, it will always be stable. And following up Frieza, of course, we have Zamasu Deity's Wrath. This is going to be the last battle card that I'm going to be bringing up as a staple for green. Of course, this card costs 1 energy. You basically just pop Frieza Charismatic, and then this card will come into play as an indestructible 20k battle card, and every single time you attack with it, your opponent has to choose a card from their hand and discard it. This card is very phenomenal at what it does, and I promise you it is a staple in green. And now that we are done with battle cards, guys, of course we're going to dive into the super combos that you can use for green that I consider staple. And of course, green has quite a few options. Green has, of course, the bottom deck one, draw 2, Great Saiyaman, which every color essentially has one. And then, of course, it has the Defending Farther Paragus, which is a draw 2 and then warp 1, which is actually pretty effective, seeing 2 cards before you choose one from hand and then get rid of it. So a great option for green there. And of course, we have the 1-drop Vegeta, which you can just play it and make your opponent drop a card from hand, and then when you combo with it at 4 or less, you get the draw card. So that card actually has 2 different uses in hand destruction style decks, and it's actually searchable in certain decks, so pretty strong card. And I will consider all 3 of those cards staple for green. And with that being said, guys, those are the staple cards for just about every single color. With that being said, guys, of course, if you feel I missed something, leave it in the comments below for me so that I am updated on what you guys are considering staples. And also, I just wanted to let you know that I made my decisions in this video based on the generic use of the cards and not based on any special traits. So what I'm saying by that is all the cards that I'm mentioning here in these videos are based on just what color your leader is and not what kind of card he is. So I decided not to add any cards that are good or just staple for like yellow Saiyan leaders or like black Demon Realm gods. I decided not to add anything like that just because I wanted it to be as generic to the color as possible. So with that being said, guys, of course, if you guys liked this type of video or my content in general, go ahead and smash all those buttons for me, like, comment, and subscribe. And with that being said, guys, we'll see you guys next time.